all of our citizens are adequately represented, and government needs to reflect the demography of the people. Nigerian women make up almost half of the population of this country, and we all know that women inclusion in governance, for instance, has remained a challenge. So, when we say that democracy is a government of the people, by the people, for the people, it's also important to keep in mind the fact that the people include different groups, some of which are terribly marginalized: women, youth, people with disabilities, and we have to work to ensure as much as possible that all of these different groups are represented in the governance of this country.
Let me just take you further. The same youths who shout June 12, June 12, restore June 12 mandate, do they really understand what that mandate is? Because they are the same youths who peddle fake news. They are the same youths who peddle disinformation, on the social media and all of that. So that's what I'm saying. How do we get these youths? How do we reorientate their minds so that they truly embrace the ideals which they clamor for?
A significant youth population. Okay, so, as I said earlier, we have a number of young people who seem to be aware of the right thing, who are socially, politically conscious, but then at the same time, we have challenges with some of our youths. And I think a lot of what we have to do regarding reorienting young people lies to a large extent to the government. We can always, we have a Ministry of Youth Development. We have a number of other programs targeted at young people being done in other ministries and other agencies, and I believe it's a vehicle to enlighten our young people, to bring them on board, to give them the kind of knowledge and the kind of skill sets that we believe they should have. Also, social media, if we look at disinformation, fake news is a huge problem. People spread all sorts of things. But then I believe that there have to be consequences for actions, and I believe that within the laws that we have, there are ways to ensure that people who spread fake news are held to account for the kind of things they do, especially in cases where the fake news, for instance, leads to conflict or exacerbates conflict where it already occurs. So, like, we have laws already through which we can prosecute such cases and ensure that those who are fond of doing things like that are made to refrain from doing so. Also, government has been trying in recent times with the digital communication, especially since the COVID-19 pandemic hit our shores. And, it's important to be able to step that up. We have quite a number of people from the presidency to state governments with a large presence on social media. And it's also an avenue. It provides a great opportunity to enlighten young people, to talk to them about what government is doing, the kind of things we would like our young people to be engaged in.
Just before we let you go, I have one question for you. Certain family events, including tragedies, could either serve to be incentives or disincentives for surviving members of such families. How does politics smell today in the Abiola family?
We're quite many. There are quite a number of us, his children. And then it's a large family too, from the extended family end, and people have different interests. Basically, I'm quite involved in politics myself. I've stood for elections. I've worked at the National Assembly. I've been involved at party organizing at the highest levels, and there are others. I think about 2 brothers of mine have also tried to vie for elective office. Chief Mrs. Lola Abiola Idaho was a member of the House of Representatives. She is still in government, but now as an appointee. And we have Auntie Hafsat, Hafsat Abiola Costello. She's in civil society, doing great work with respect to women. Saratu is doing great work also in civil society. So we have quite a number of us who are either involved in politics or civil society and trying to make change happen from the civil society angle. And then, of course, we have others who have diverse interests. My sisters, for instance, from my mom, they wouldn't touch politics with a 10-foot pole. They have no interest whatsoever in it. So some of us are inclined towards it, some others aren't. And I think I understand the reluctance from those who don't want anything to do with it. But at the same time, interest, if we're in a large family, you're bound to find people with a very wide set of interests.
Rinsola, I thank you and applaud your courage to veer into politics. Rinsola Abiola, daughter of late Chief MKO Abiola, joining us live in our studio to discuss, of course, Democracy Day today. Risala, thank you very much and do have a wonderful day.
Happy Democracy Day.
All right, this is Good Morning Nigeria, and we're discussing, I beg your pardon, Democracy Day, June 12th. So let me direct my question to the senator. Distinguished Senator.
I was just wondering, I mean, we've had Senators Mungina speak. Osita Okechukwu, well, Claire, if you don't mind, Osita Okechukwu, DG, he had left some of his responses hanging with regard to the significance of June 12. I was just wondering, in 21 years now of the Fourth Republic, as it were, and the Fourth Republic itself might never have been if June 12 had been upheld, because June 12 was supposed to usher in the Third Republic, even though it had started in January of 1992. In your opinion, are there lessons that are manifest in the conduct of political actors in the Fourth Republic? Is there a reminder at all times of the conscious acts or lack of those conscious acts that we ought to take to ensure that the real gains of democracy are sustained and otherwise ramped up?
A lot of reminders. A lot of reminders in the sense that when, as the distinguished Senator Zingina was saying, part of the pack of the Abiola support, in spite of Abiola's wealth, was that Abiola had volunteer youth. I know, for instance, that in various chapters, not the much money that was brought that happened, but it was a massive volunteers. And similar thing also happened in the followership of President Muhammadu Buhari. When last we discussed this issue with the late Alhaji Shehu Shagari, he said the only time he saw such followership was Aminu Kanu's followership. So the reminder should be that those who aspire to rule Nigeria should aim in their own personal capacities, both in public office and outside public office, to show good exemplary leadership. The Nigerians are good followers and they can volunteer for anybody they believe in. What do you need to elicit? Not that you will not look for the funds. There must be logistics in politics all over the liberal democracy of the world we know. But the most important thing one should look for is how will the people rate you? What do they believe you believe in? Because he said that truth thrives only when the people have trust that they can speak the truth speaks. So part of the deficit today is that a lot of our leaders, the people do not have much confidence in what their pronouncements. How do we build up that trust? Because trust deficit is what is the only thing hampering our democracy so far. I talked about a decent program like the Buhari Agrarian Revolution. A lot of youths had not been sufficiently mobilized. There's a segment they call the Anko Boras program, where you do not need collateral, where they will help you in land preparation, they help you in high-yielding seedlings, or if you're even in livestock, or in fishery. Whatever you're doing, and luckily for the country, there's no square meter in Nigeria that had no one crop or tuber that could grow with fertility. But how do we now get our youths and women to have a transition? A lot of people after graduation are still waiting for those white-collar jobs, which are no more there. How do we join the crusade in the agrarian revolution? Luckily, there's an aspect now that I see as one that we really make it a Buhari agrarian revolution. That is the plan to import machineries, tractors, not just in one state or section of the country, but in all the geopolitical zones. When the Minister of Agriculture, Saba Nonano, was talking, he was talking about 680 centers and 140 processing centers. So how do we now, because that will be the next tune of democracy post-COVID, Because from all the discoveries made in the oil sector, I do not see oil taking the lead in the next 20 or 30 years. It's going to first and foremost be agriculture. Yes, we can talk of manufacturing, but before then, 70% of Nigerians are already in agriculture. And if the 70% of the population are somewhere, and how will democracy grow? Democracy can only grow when you have those cadre at the rural areas with prosperity. They are going to be the new leaders we are going to have in Nigeria because they are going to have the same track record with Temko Abiola. They will be in a position to show we need to be followed. They will be like President Muhammadu Buhari that will not need to give you a kobo before you follow him. So the greatest reminder is what will elicit us to emulate those Nigerians have followed pro bono.
All right, thank you, DJ. Let me come back now to Malam Garba Shehu. Malam Shehu, I'd like to stir the waters a bit and just take you back. June 12, was declared as Democracy Day, preceding the 2019 elections. And so some people felt, this could have been politically motivated. There were others who felt, okay, maybe this was done to scour the favor of, Chief MKO Abiola's followers and all that. Do we have cause now? Do those people have cause now to change this perception?
Oh, absolutely, yes, because I think the basis upon which the government acted, the president acted, is the need to bring justice